Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and of course we've got Dr. Brandon Nielsen in the house, which is always an amazing treat. So,
Pleasure.
and it didn't take you very long to get down today because,
No, actually, it was really good. It wasn't snowing and just like flying
yeah,
down the
last time
freeway
it took you like an hour to get here, didn't it?
or more.
And you're probably 20, 30 minutes
15,
away?
20
Yeah.
minutes away. Yeah.
Okay, so
So,
today I'm excited to talk to you about dosing because this is a question we have almost every single day. And
really?
yes, we have people ask
Wow.
us things. Well, we talk to a lot of people during the day,
Right,
as
right,
do you.
right.
But people are curious about dosing, not just for themselves when they're first starting, but how do they dose for their children and
Oh,
people with
yeah.
different body weights. So we want to cover this so that you can,
Feel
um,
secure, safe. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
feel
you're
really
not,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, so let's start with an average adult dosing when you're first starting to use herbal tinctures, especially on the strength and concentration that the tinctures that I make are on. So,
Okay. So, yeah, the first thing I would do is just, look on the bottle, right? If you look on the bottle, it's going to give you an average dose for a person that's about, I'd say, 125 to 200 pounds. From there, you can go up or down. All right. Now, if we're talking for children, what I'll usually do is half that. So if the child is up to about 50, or are we talking about children, or
let's
how,
talk about
like infants, or?
well, let's talk about them in a second. Let's talk about kids that are like grade school through
Okay.
junior high. So, because I think
Oh,
once
yeah.
you're a
Okay.
teenager, sometimes teenagers have a
Yeah.
normal average body
Yeah.
weight for an adult.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
So grade school, grade school, let's talk about like my oldest daughter, like 7 years old, grade school up to adolescence. Yeah, so what I would do is I would I would I would half that dosage. I would half the dosage, or depending, I mean it's kind of hard to say, but yeah, I would half the dosage for
Okay.
half the dosage, and then for like more like getting down to a toddler infant, I would actually go like a quarter of a dosage. The thing is you can always go up. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
that's the thing, is sometimes people think, well, I'm only supposed to half the dosage. So for you very literal people, adolescents, we're talking like body weight from about in the 50s up to 100, then you're going to go about half the dosage, all right? Then you start going below 50 pounds, getting down into like lower grade school, down into even toddlers and infants. You're going to go like a quarter dosage. For an infant, too, like a brand new baby, depending on the product, you guys, you wise, but depending on the product, I will even start out, yeah, like a quarter, yeah, exactly a quarter dosage. So,
Yeah.
for example, if 15 drops 3 times a day, so 16, I'll do like 4 drops 3 times a day for an infant.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And literally an infant. So, and we're
Yeah, yeah, like an infant, like a baby, or
a
even
baby who's
like,
not even drinking out of a sippy cup.
right.
Right.
Yeah, so for example, and usually on moms, especially if they're nursing, it's so nice because then I will actually dose her
Mm-hmm.
appropriate, and and usually I'll just give that adult dosage or slightly little bit more, and that will generally take care of the baby. However, you guys got to think about this. If the baby infant is very sick, nursing baby, sometimes I'll actually dilute. You can dilute the solution and then just add it with a dropper directly into the infant's
Yeah, in
mouth.
fact, this is what I do, and I tell people this, and I did this with my own kids when they were
Hmm.
babies, and now, of course, my grandkids are now 4 and 6, so they're past this too. But when my kids were babies and not even drinking out of a cup, I would get a teaspoon
Oh, uh-huh.
of water, and I would put 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 drops of the
That's
LDM in
exactly
the
what I do.
water.
Right.
I would get a clean dropper.
Uh-huh.
So just you can buy these droppers clean. I wouldn't use this to put in the baby's mouth
Oh,
because
yeah.
so get a clean dropper that you use just for this. You've got this teaspoonful of water with the LDM in it, and it's going to look milky. You squeeze
Right.
up the water into the dropper, and then literally you hold the baby and you put it in the side of their cheek
Right.
and you squirt it in.
Yeah.
And it's
That's exactly right.
super easy. And like you just said, you don't need to start with a high dose.
No.
In fact, it's better to start with a lower dose if you're sensitive, if
Oh,
you're
yes.
if you're I hate to use the word nervous, but if you're new to tinctures and you are a literal left brain person who looks at dosage and looks at exactly what the materials, the bottle says, the catalog says, the information says,
Which is a good thing.
it is a good thing.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
I do that too, and I buy supplements that aren't the ones that I make and I'm really super familiar with. I follow exactly what it says on the
Absolutely.
packaging. So once you get familiar with them and start using them, then you can actually start using them just for how you need them. Because, like we were saying before we started talking about it on this, is that you just said last night, what did you do?
All
When
right, yeah, so let's talk about
this
a
is a good
big
story.
dosage. Okay, so for example, so now we talked a little bit about, going into a smaller dose. And yes, I'll kind of echo what Jane said is for people who are very sensitive, my patients that are very sensitive, what I'll do, I mean, I've even taken people down to one drop,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
one drop, and
Yeah.
then from there I'll add up. Especially if I don't want them the first time, I don't want them to get a detox rash with the
Mm-hmm.
LDN, the immunity, or what I'll do is I'll actually start them down at 1, 2, 3 drops. Now, you guys, one thing to remember, this is super key, is this is food.
Right.
This is
It's true.
plant-based food, and so think about it like this: are you going to eat one time a day and be done? No, generally you won't. However, there are some things, like for example, you do have this, and I just noticed this, like this, I'll take one time a day. And,
Yeah, I
and
do too.
I just do it one time a day. However, when there's an infection, I like to say, so imagine your immune system is looking for something to help, right? And it says, what's the closest thing? Oh, sweet, there's some C's plus. I'm just, using this analogy. And then it kind of wears off, and an hour later it says, hey, you guys, we need, oh, there's C's plus again. It's already in the body, right? And then 2 hours later, it's kind of like, boy, we need to new, oh, there's some LDM. And see, if you're giving it more constant when you're really fighting an infection, that's what's nice. So I like to dose it, spread the dose out
Yeah.
and more times. And so
Yeah.
then you guys, when you go up to a max dose, so for example, last night I taught a class at 6. So I started to notice a little bit of a runny nose. I'm like, well, what is this? And my wife had said, hey, I was getting a runny nose before she was. And so she started right away on colloidal silver sinus spray. I was running around the office and I was just about to teach my class. And I'm like, what? And I noticed some LDM over. I have a bottle, an open bottle that I use to do preparations. And I noticed it and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to hurry and take some of that. So what I did is I put a cup of water and I probably put, I don't know,
Like 2 tablespoons.
2 tablespoons,
I think
probably
that's what you
two
said.
tablespoons of LDN. So what I did is right before my class, I took a drink. I let it sit there during my next class. So an hour later, I took another drink. And then after, when my students were workshopping, we were doing muscle testing. While they're workshopping, I went and took another drink, went back, and then I finished it off. So I just took basically, like, what is a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons, right? So I basically just took, 2 tablespoons over
That's
the
a
course
lot.
of about, yeah.
And that's a lot. But
And
that's
then,
okay.
and then I went home and then I took 3 C's plus. Yeah, so right away I said, "Oh, it's coming on." I pounded it as fast as I could. So that's a dose that I know I'm not going to get the rash, but for me it's more important, like right away you have like this golden 24-hour window. And if you can hit it super hard,
This is good.
and I just did it. Do you see how it's like I was eating? You have this golden window. So I was eating, right? I took a drink, I mean drinking, took a drink. I took another drink. I took another drink. I took another drink. I took another drink of the LDM. Then I went home. I took a big drink of water because I noticed, I don't know if you've ever noticed that LDM will really like start to dry, especially the C's will really help kind of dry up the mucus.
Yeah, that's why I love your
Absolutely.
sinus spray.
Yes, yes.
No, that's changed the game for me.
So
So
that's what I did. So if you can imagine, I just did like 6 little mini meals. So for my immune system, every time my soldiers were looking for a weapon, guess what they said? Oh, there's LDM. Like there's the sword. And then an hour later, oh, there's my sword. And an
right,
hour
right,
later,
right.
there's my sword. And then I use C's plus, and they're like, oh, I need my shield, and I've got my sword, and I went to sleep. And do you hear me? Just a titch, and I'm like, wow, I feel
Yeah.
phenomenal.
No, and honestly, that's once you start using it on this kind of level, I think most of the people who are used to using
Mm-hmm.
the LDM and the other stuff, they're used to being able to dose it high, mostly too because I've had conversations with you and we've talked about it and the information is there. But my biggest thing is that you can also do this with little kids. You can go 2 or 3 drops every hour if they get an infection.
Yes.
So don't this is where those one of those things where you don't have to second guess it too hard. when you get really familiar, even if you're an analytical left brain person, that is my husband totally. I'm
Yeah.
like completely intuitive. I'm like, what do I need? And then
Right.
I do it. I don't, especially if it's something I'm not familiar with.
Sure.
But for little kids, um, start with a small dose. You can always increase it. So that's probably the very best advice
Yeah.
on dosing.
So again, kind of summary here. If you're in doubt, take the label, read it. Take exactly as the label says, right? Then, if it's for a child, adolescent, half that dosage. If it's for a infant, baby, kind of toddler, then you quarter that dosage, all right? If you're in doubt, as you start to get more familiar with the product, and if you're very sensitive, there's nothing wrong. You guys, what's amazing with this, sometimes I will use 1, 2, 3 drops in an adult.
Yeah.
It's almost like a super diluted version or almost like a homeopathic dosage. And guess what? It's still super powerful.
Yeah.
It's still phenomenally powerful. In fact, one lady was detoxing so hard, it was like 1 or 2 drops was all she could do. And it was still super powerful. Okay? So again, if in doubt, read the label, take it what the label says, and then you can half it or quarter it, and then from there you can start to build up. Just so you know, sometimes it's a great thing on dosing after you've done a lot of dosing, to actually peel back to a quarter dosage and just do a small dosage for a couple of days. So it's still there present, and then you can build back up. It's kind of fun, the body. In fact, remember one of the seminars that we're both at talking about switching things up and allowing the body, you've been using the sword, LDM, you've got your shield now, sometimes, or machine gun, whatever you want to call, but sometimes it's good to now go and just use another tool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's not even about your body building and immunity. It's just about switching it up.
Sometimes you just switch it up or
Yeah.
switching the dosage.
Yeah. So I hope that helps. If you guys have some questions about dosing, please don't hesitate to contact me and let me know. And
now that you're confused, go ahead and call Jane.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully you're not confused, because what I would really encourage you to do, especially for people who are left-brained, is to maybe make this part of it, once you follow directions on the bottle, make this part of the way you take care of yourself using herbal supplements, and especially tinctures, where you can control the dosage down to one drop.
Yeah.
Make this a little bit more intuitive, like kind of tune in, develop that part of yourself, because it's like I have to develop the analytical part of myself a little bit, because I know sometimes I need to think and follow directions more than I do, because I don't want to follow directions. I don't want to follow the rules. It's completely true. So I just want to do everything intuitive. I am my father's daughter, okay? Yeah, so I would just say kind of practice being more intuitive, because you can use your knowledge, your common sense, and then that intuition, which we all have. We all have it. And I hate to say this, but women have it a little stronger than men, because we're mothers, unless they develop it.
Okay, I believe you.
I don't know if you believe me or not, but
no,
I think
it actually is true.
Well, I think that women are super tuned in, because we are mothers, and hopefully we're listening to that. And I know you're one of the most intuitive people that I know. That's why we get along so well. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yourself.
Oh, I did. Oh, okay.
Thanks so much.
And we'll talk to you soon.